From creating memories to finding the perfect gift, Steel can help make the holidays.
My parents said I was just a backup son. I was walking to the kitchen and heard them say they only keep me around for my money. So I cut them off, blocked everyone, and built a life without them. Now I own the land. They tried to steal, and my brother's unemployed. Hey Reddit, I don't usually post on here. I just scroll, read drama, and mind my business. But things at home went so sideways, I honestly didn't know where else to drop this. You ever just sit back and realize your whole family treated you like a backup plan they never even wanted? Yeah, that's basically how I grew up. I am 31 male, the older brother, but somehow my younger brother Aaron has always been the golden child. I mean, the kid could literally set the living room on fire and my parents would ask me why I left the matches out. It's been like that since we were kids. They used to call Aaron, 28 male, a little genius, just because he could plug in the DVD player on his own. Meanwhile, I was the one cooking boxed mac and cheese by age 9 while our parents were out doing God knows what. But none of that mattered to them. Aaron had potential. I was just there. Our mom, Nancy, is that kind of woman who talks like everything's fine but drips venom in every sentence. She'd say things like, Aaron just needs more space to grow, and you're older, you should understand better. Our dad, Stan, wasn't any better. He treated Aaron like the second coming of Steve Jobs and looked at me like I was a broken tire jack. It got worse as we got older. When I turned 17, I got a job at a local repair shop, changing oil, replacing brakes, basic stuff. I was just trying to stack some money, maybe help out a little. And what did they do? Start charging me $400 a month in rent. That's right, 17, still in high school, paying rent to live in a house I grew up in. Fast forward a year, Aaron turns 16 and crashes his car. Guess who pays to fix it? Not him, not our parents, me. And they acted like it was normal. Like, well, you have a job, and Aaron's still trying to find himself. Find himself? Bro was literally skipping class to vape behind the school and cheat off his girlfriend's homework. And they wonder why I moved out as soon as I legally could. But here's the thing. No matter how bad it got, I still helped them. When Dad lost his job for the third time, which wasn't even a surprise at that point, I helped cover their electric bills. I sent money monthly when their mortgage started falling behind. Even bought Aaron a used laptop when he said he needed it for a remote internship that turned out to be some MLM crypto thing. I didn't do it because they deserved it. I did it for my mom, mostly. I kept thinking she'd change, that if I helped enough, they'd finally see I was worth something. But people like that don't change. They just see you as a faucet, and the second it stops dripping, they start screaming. My wife, Sarah, kept telling me it wasn't right. She's a third-grade teacher, sweetest person I know. Tough when she needs to be, but always fair. Every time we'd visit my parents, my mom would hit her with one of those fake smile lines like, "So are you still just teaching?" Or, "Must be nice to have summers off." Plus real condescending crap, but always said in that polite voice that makes it hard to call out without sounding crazy. Sarah never complained, though. She just took it. For me. Then there's Max, our dog. A rescue. Big ol' mutt with one floppy ear and a crooked tail. He's basically my second kid. Been with us since before our daughter was born. That dog sat with me during late-night shifts, road trips, everything. And my parents hated him. They'd always say things like, "You care more about that animal than your own blood." Funny how the dog never asked me for rent money, or called my wife useless. Now here's where things went from just crappy family dynamics to straight betrayal. Last year, during some random family dinner, I went to the kitchen to grab water for Sarah and me. My daughter was in the living room with Max, watching cartoons. I wasn't even trying to eavesdrop or anything, but I stopped in the hallway when I heard my name. Dad was saying, "He acts like he's some big man because he sends us a couple $100. Then Mom added, "It's disgusting. He's a failure and he doesn't even see it. If Aaron had that kind of money, he'd use it properly." Then Aaron, of course, had to throw in his 2 cents. Honestly, if he wasn't paying the bills, I wouldn't even bother talking to him. I stood there, staring at the hallway tiles like they were about to crack. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just listened. They went on for a while, too, about how they were just using me to stay afloat and he'll always be the backup, word for word, like I wasn't their son, like I was just an ATM they could insult when the screen turned off. I walked back in, set the water down, and told Sarah we were leaving. She knew something was up. I didn't say anything until we got in the car and Max was loaded up with our kid in the back seat. Then I told her everything. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just said, "Good. Now let's be done with them." And I was. No more money, no more calls, I blocked every one of them, even Aaron, changed my number, told my job I wasn't available to do repairs on weekends anymore so I could spend time with my actual family, the ones who mattered. Max got extra treats that night, by the way. Thing is, I thought cutting them off would make me feel guilty, but it didn't. It felt like standing up straight for the first time in years, like finally letting someone else carry their own dead weight. But they didn't take it well, and they didn't go quietly either. So after I cut them off, I figured that'd be the end of it. Like, all right, they'll be mad, talk trash for a while, then eventually move on. Wrong. Cutting off their free ride just lit a fuse I didn't even know existed. They didn't come back with apologies. They came back swinging. I started getting weird texts from numbers I didn't know. Stuff like, your mother's crying herself to sleep, and you abandoned your family for a dog. I blocked them one by one. Then came the Facebook messages from extended family. Aunt Lisa, Uncle Brian, even some cousin I hadn't talked to since we were 10. All saying stuff like, you need to make things right, or your dad always tried his best, you're being selfish. All parroting the same thing like they were reading from a group script. I found out later that my mom had been calling everyone in the family, telling them I lost it, and was having some kind of mental breakdown. She left out the part where they openly admitted to using me for years. But the biggest shift came when my grandpa's name started getting tossed around. Grandpa Joe, my mom's dad, wasn't rich, but he owned some land. Big open property outside of town, probably worth low six figures if sold. When I was a kid, he used to take me fishing there. He taught me how to change oil in his truck, how to patch drywall, even how to sharpen a mower blade. He was old school and quiet, but always respected people who worked hard and didn't complain. When I stopped talking to my parents, I still called Grandpa every couple weeks, just checking in, asking if he needed anything. He always said the same thing. I'm proud of you, kid. He knew how my parents were. He'd seen it for years. He just never stepped in because, in his words, I wanted to see if they'd wake up on their own. Spoiler, they didn't. Anyway, one day he mentioned he was putting together a will.
Go ahead. Close it. Payroll and compliance are done. Those extra 2 days every month since you switched to Gusto? Music to your ears. Make time for what matters. Get started for free at gusto.com.
When I came to Notre Dame, I wanted to be a part of something more than just business as usual.
Nothing dramatic, just said he wanted to make sure everything went where it was supposed to. I didn't think much of it, honestly. I wasn't expecting anything. I figured he'd split it all evenly between his kids and grandkids, or maybe just sell the land and downsize. But a month later, things got weird. Aaron, my lovely brother who never lifted a finger unless it was for himself, started showing up at Grandpa's place, like regularly, bringing him groceries, fixing stuff around the house. I knew something was off immediately. Aaron doesn't fix anything. The guy once called me because he didn't know how to restart the Wi-Fi router, but now he was playing Handyman of the Year. Turns out Aaron found out about the will. My parents must have heard something and sent him in like a scout. Butter him up, get in his good graces, and maybe manipulate the will in their favor. That's when I started watching things a little closer. Aaron's always been a snake, but for some reason, people never seem to catch on. At work, he had a desk job at some logistics company. Nothing fancy. His title sounded more impressive than it actually was. Regional Compliance Specialist or something like that. But really, all he did was fill out spreadsheets and send reports. The thing is, he'd been doing shady stuff there for years without getting caught. He'd copy other people's work, fudge numbers to hit his KPIs, even submitted a few expense reports for client lunches that were just him and his girlfriend ordering takeout. I only knew all this because his dumbass used to brag about it in the group chat we had years ago. He'd say stuff like, "Bro, my manager is so dumb. I literally submitted the same report from last month, just changed the dates." And no one questioned it because he wore dress shirts and talked fast in meetings. He lived on shortcuts, always did, and somehow it always worked out for him. He'd fail upwards, talk his way out of issues, charm the higher-ups just enough to avoid real accountability. Meanwhile, if I showed up 5 minutes late for a delivery, my pay got docked. That was the difference. He had a family making excuses for him and bosses who never looked too close. I had bills and reality. Anyway, back to Grandpa. One day, I get a call from him. He's confused, quiet, says he got a call from someone claiming to be a health representative asking about his memory. Asked if he's been forgetting things, if he's been misplacing items, if he feels overwhelmed managing property. I told him that sounded shady and asked for the number. Turns out, it wasn't some random checkup. It was arranged. A week later, I found out my parents tried to claim that Grandpa was mentally declining, that he wasn't fit to handle his own estate. They were working on submitting documents, fake documents, to the court, suggesting he had early signs of Alzheimer's. They had a bogus doctor's note, too. Probably paid someone or forged the damn thing. That's when something in me flipped. I wasn't just going to walk away anymore. I wasn't just going to block a few numbers and call it done. They wanted to play dirty? Cool. I know things too. I had messages, I had screenshots, I had receipts. First, I helped Grandpa contact a lawyer. We locked his estate down properly, got real evaluations done, and made sure any court filings on his behalf would trigger an alert. He even recorded a video saying he was fully competent and understood exactly what his will said. That alone nuked any chance they had. But I wasn't done. Aaron's job? Yeah. I dug up every single thing he ever bragged about. Fake expense reports, copy-pasted audits, even one time where he left sensitive files open on a public terminal at a FedEx. I gathered it all. Sent it in an anonymous package to his HR department with a little note. Might want to audit your golden boy. 2 weeks later, he was fired. No references, no severance, no dignity. My parents were furious. They tried calling again, this time screaming voicemails instead of guilt-tripping ones. I saved them all. You never know. The best part? Grandpa updated the will, left everything to me and his great-granddaughter. Aaron's name was scratched out completely. Not even a penny. That's when the begging started. So Aaron got fired. Not laid off, not downsized, fired. Like full-on escorted out of the building kind of fired. No handshake, no, we'll be in touch, no severance package. Just a walk of shame out the lobby and a security guy handing him a sad little cardboard box with his coffee mug and desk junk in it. Took 2 days before my mom called me. She didn't ask how I was, didn't ask how my daughter was doing. She went straight into rage mode. "This is your fault," she hissed into the phone. "You've ruined your brother's future." I hung up. Then she started texting Sarah. That didn't go the way she planned either. Sarah doesn't play polite. She's dealt with bratty third graders for 10 years and knows how to handle manipulators like a pro. She responded once, just one line. "Stop contacting me. We protect our peace now." Blocked. But the real storm didn't start until a week later, when my parents showed up at Grandpa's lawyer's office during a routine check-in. They tried to present the forged medical documents again. Yeah, even after everything. Claimed Grandpa had no idea what he was doing, said his will had been influenced by outsiders, read me, and that he was not of sound mind. Only this time, they walked straight into a legal buzzsaw. Grandpa had already filed a preventative notice with the county clerk's office. Basically, it was a "don't touch my stuff unless I'm legally ruled incompetent" kind of thing. He also had that recorded video we made earlier, where he literally held up a newspaper, said the date out loud, and explained every line of his will calmly and clearly, with the lawyer sitting next to him. Once the judge saw the video and compared it with the garbage report my parents submitted, it was game over. Forgery's a serious thing, especially when it involves manipulating someone's estate. Turns out my uncle, Mom's younger brother, had a friend in the court system. He tipped us off that there might be actual charges coming down. Fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to defraud an estate, all of it. And the best part? They did it all to themselves. I didn't even have to push. I just made sure the truth was waiting for them at every corner. Aaron was spiraling hard. Without his job, his fancy apartment was too expensive, so he moved back in with our parents. From what I heard, he spends most of his time gaming and rage tweeting about how family betrayed him. Classic victim mindset, always someone else's fault. My parents, they were quietly drowning. The money I used to send? Gone. Their mortgage was behind by 3 months. Car payments late, utilities bouncing. They even got their internet shut off, which honestly made me laugh a little too hard. Aunt Lisa sent me a voice note saying Mom had cried for 2 hours the night the internet cut out, blaming me for ruining the family's reputation, like I was the one who faked medical reports and tried to rob my dying grandfather.
Hey, that new Samsung OLED TV's a hit.
OLED.
For the family.
It's really big.
Also glare-free.
Wow, you're really carefully.
Well, it's kind of our thing.
Yeah, the picture quality's totally immersive. Oh, even the sun.
He actually stopped texting. He actually stopped texting.
Back to singing, okay.
And they scored a great deal at Best Buy.
Really great deal. La 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 la.
Get great holiday deals on Samsung OLED TVs now at Best Buy.
They still didn't get it. Meanwhile, Sarah and I were doing all right. Not rich, not flashy, but solid. Stable. I had picked up a few extra contracts, started saving to buy a second-hand truck so I could scale up. Sarah was tutoring after school for a bit of side cash, and our daughter had just gotten Student of the Month. Max was healthy. I was sleeping better. The house felt peaceful, and for the first time in years, I actually felt proud of my life. Then the call came. It was late. I was watching some dumb show, half asleep on the couch, when the phone rang. It was my mom. I stared at it for a long second before answering. No idea why I picked up, honestly. Dad had a stroke, she said. Voice flat. No hello, no lead-in. He's in the ICU. She said it like it was my job to fix it. Like that information should have moved me into action. But I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just sat there listening. Then she added, "You should come. He's asking for you." That part did hit different. Not because I felt guilt, but because, why? After everything? After calling me a failure, after mocking my wife, using my money like a piggy bank, and then tossing me out like garbage? Now he suddenly wanted me there? I told her I'd think about it and hung up. Sarah walked in a few minutes later and saw my face. I told her what happened. She didn't push, just sat next to me, rested her head on my shoulder and said, "You don't owe them anything." She was right. So I didn't go. A few days later, they showed up. Yep, outside my place. I don't know how they got the address. Maybe a cousin. Maybe they followed me once. Either way, there they were. My mom and Aaron, standing at the gate, looking desperate. Faces tired and washed out. Mom was crying. Aaron looked like he hadn't shaved in weeks. "We just want to talk," she said when I opened the front door. I didn't even step outside. "Then say it from there." She tried pulling the guilt angle again. Said Dad was recovering but weak. Said he might not have much time. Said he kept mumbling my name. Then she asked if I'd consider helping out with some of the medical bills. I laughed, actually laughed out loud. "You mean like the way you helped Grandpa?" I asked. That shut her up. Aaron, though, still had the nerve. He stepped forward and said, "You're really gonna do this? After everything we've done for you?" I swear to God, I almost lost it. But I didn't. I stayed calm. Looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You remember what you said that night at dinner? That you only tolerate me because I pay your bills? Good news. You don't have to tolerate me anymore." I closed the door in their faces. No yelling. No big dramatic speech. Just silence. You'd think after everything, the fake documents, the begging, the screaming at my front door, they'd finally get the message. That they'd back off and just disappear. But people like my parents, they don't let go. They don't accept boundaries. They see your silence as disrespect, your peace as rebellion, and they take that personally, especially when they're broke and desperate. After that last confrontation outside my house, things went quiet for about a month. No calls, no texts, no mystery relatives showing up in my inbox trying to mediate. For a second, I let my guard down. Business was picking up. I'd managed to lease another used semi-truck, old, loud, but dependable, and landed a regular freight gig with a distributor that had me running between Chicago and Indiana twice a week. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady money, enough to finally stash some savings away. Sarah and I started talking about maybe taking our daughter to see the ocean for the first time that summer. We even looked at little cabins in Tennessee. Something simple. Just 3 of us and Max in the back seat. It felt like we were finally catching a break. Then, one morning, I walk out to the lot behind my small office, just a gravel lot I rented behind a gas station, and my truck is trashed. And I don't mean keyed or tagged, I mean destroyed. Windshield smashed in, every mirror busted clean off, tires slashed, front bumper hanging like it got into a fight with a train, spray paint all over the side, big red letters, Family Trader, right there, across the door, like I was in some mob movie. I stood there for a minute, just frozen, looking at it, like my brain couldn't fully register what I was seeing. This truck wasn't just metal and wheels to me. It was how I fed my family, how I paid rent. It was freedom. And someone tried to take that away. No cameras, no witnesses. The lot was in a dead zone. I filed a police report. They said they'd look into it, which basically meant nothing would happen. I knew who did it. You know who did it. But unless I had proof, it was just words. The final nail? When I walked around to the passenger side, I found the glove box forced open. They didn't steal anything. They just left a note. Written in Sharpie on the back of a Walgreens receipt, it said, "Still think you're better than us?" Aaron's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. Sloppy, barely legible, like he never grew out of middle school. I kept that note, didn't hand it to the cops, Didn't even tell Sarah about it right away. I just took a deep breath and walked back inside. I was done being polite. I was done waiting for them to self-destruct. Now I was going to bury them legally and make sure they'd never come near me again. First, I got security cameras installed. House, office, truck lot, even dash cams. Everything.
I got this old thing and the bill from the store where I got it. Figured you could beat it with a better deal on one of these big boys.
That doesn't work that way.
Well, at Verizon, anyone can bring in their AT&T or T-Mobile bill and they'll give you a better deal.
I thought Verizon was pricey.
No, better deal, best 5G network. Back to the TV. Does it come higher than 8K? Because I don't like to squint.
Ma'am, take your TV and go.
Bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today for a better deal.
Guess you're not as cool as Verizon.
You don't know that?
Then I went back to the lawyer handling Grandpa's estate and filed a restraining order against my parents and Aaron. I added documentation, all the voicemails, texts, social media messages, and photos of the truck. No note. I kept that for me. The lawyer helped file a civil claim too, property damage and loss of income. I didn't even care about the money. I just wanted it on paper. A paper trail. Something their next victim or future employer could find if they ever ran a background check. While that was processing, I worked off my backup truck. It was slower, older, didn't have a sleeper cab, so I had to rent cheap motels when routes went long. But I made it work. Max rode shotgun most days. Sarah packed me extra sandwiches. My daughter left me little drawings in the glove box. I kept moving. What pissed me off the most wasn't even the damage. It was the message. That note. That smug little question. Still think you're better than us? I never thought I was better. I thought I was free. And that's what they couldn't handle. My success wasn't flashy. I wasn't rich. I wasn't famous. But I didn't need them anymore. That's what drove them mad. That's why they lashed out. Because people like that need someone under them. Someone they can look down on, control, humiliate, when their own lives fall apart. I took that away from them. When the court date came, they didn't even show up. My lawyer said it was probably because they knew they couldn't afford the risk. Losing the case would have put a judgment on their record. Made it even harder for them to get loans or credit or whatever half-baked plan they were cooking up next. But the judge approved the restraining order. 6 months renewable, and I did renew it. Twice. At that point, they were basically ghosts. I didn't hear from them. No more doorsteps, no more calls. But word got around. Aunt Lisa called me one night and told me my parents were ashamed to show their faces in town anymore. They'd become a punchline. Whispers at church, awkward glances at the grocery store. Even their old friends had started backing away. Apparently, someone in their friend group had a kid who worked in HR at Aaron's old company. Found out exactly why he got fired. Word spreads fast when your whole life's built on image. Good. They earned every bit of it. Meanwhile, I kept building. By the end of the year, I'd saved up enough to buy my own office trailer. Just a small used one from a contractor who was retiring. Plopped it down behind the lot, hooked up power, turned it into a little dispatch center. Sarah helped design the inside. My daughter helped name it Base Truck. The name stuck. Max got a little bed in the corner. We hung up a whiteboard, some shelves, even got a mini fridge. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. One night, as I was locking up, Sarah pulled into the lot with Olivia in the back seat. They'd brought takeout. We sat on the steps of the office trailer, eating fries, watching the sun go down. And I realized something. They hadn't just damaged a truck. They'd tried to destroy my life. But all they did was make me build a better one. A few months after the truck incident, things finally started feeling solid. I wasn't rich, but I was stable. The restraining order did its job. No more surprises, no more smashed windshields. Just peace. Boring, quiet, reliable peace. The kind that doesn't sound like much until you've lived years without it. Then I got a call from Grandpa. He was calm like always. Told me to stop by that weekend. Said he wanted to finalize everything with the lawyer and make it official. I already knew what he meant, but I didn't push. I'd learned with Grandpa. When he was ready to talk, he talked. So I drove out Saturday morning. Sarah and Olivia came too. Grandpa always had a soft spot for my daughter. He'd saved every drawing she ever gave him, and he kept them framed in his hallway like they were rare museum pieces. She gave him a new one that day. It was a picture of us standing in front of a big red truck with hearts all over it. He stuck it on the fridge right next to the family photo from our wedding. Then we sat down with the lawyer. Grandpa pulled out a folder. It had everything in it. The deed transfer, the revised will, a letter to the court, even a notarized statement explaining why he made the changes. He wasn't messing around. He said, "I've seen what entitlement looks like. I'm not letting it ruin this land." He gave half the remaining property to Uncle Ray, his only brother still alive, and the other half to me. No loopholes. No, unless he apologizes crap. No one else's name appeared anywhere in the documents. Then he handed me a second folder. Inside was a check. 6 figures. He said, "I sold the hunting cabin. Figured you'd put it to better use." I didn't even know what to say. That cabin had been in the family for decades. But he just looked at me and said, "That place held memories for people who stopped caring. It's time for it to hold value for someone who does." I didn't cry. I'm not a big crier. But something inside me cracked a little. The kind of crack that makes you feel seen. Like someone finally acknowledged the years you spent holding everything together while being told you were nothing. That money didn't go towards some flashy car or big house. I used it to lease 2 more trucks and bring on 3 full-time drivers. All guys like me, overlooked, underpaid, treated like tools by their last company. I paid them fair, gave them weekends off. Hell, even built a little break room in the corner of the new warehouse we rented. Nothing fancy. Microwave, coffee pot, folding chairs. But it was ours. Business boomed. Word got around that we were reliable, fast, and honest. Soon we had contracts running up to Minnesota, down to Kentucky. It got to the point where I had to hire a dispatcher just to keep up with scheduling. And every time I pulled into the lot, saw the fleet, saw a base truck lit up at night, I built without them. And apparently that's what drove them insane. Because somehow, they found out. I don't know if it was a cousin stalking my LinkedIn or someone in town running their mouth. But it didn't take long before the messages started again. "Must be nice with Grandpa's money. You're stealing what belongs to our family. Don't forget who raised you." Funny, I never forgot. I just stopped pretending they did a good job. The worst was when my mom tried to play the health card again. Called me sobbing, talking about how Dad's recovery was going backwards. How he needed a new medication they couldn't afford. Tried to guilt me into covering the cost. This time, though, she added something new. "We'll lose the house, Caleb. Aaron has nowhere else to go." That was supposed to make me care. I told her flat, "You raised a man who cheats, lies, and destroys things he didn't earn. That's not my problem anymore." She snapped. Went full rage mode. Called me every name you can imagine. Said I was cold, heartless. Said Grandpa would be ashamed if he knew what I'd become. Too bad Grandpa was sitting next to me at the time. I'd answered the call on speaker in his living room. He leaned back, sipping his tea, and muttered, "She never did know when to shut up." I think that was the last time I spoke to her. 2 weeks later, I found out they tried one final move. They hired some sleazy lawyer to challenge the will. Their claim? Grandpa had been coerced into making the changes. That I'd manipulated him. That he was too old to make legal decisions. They tried to dig up anything they could. Old health records, blurry statements from distant relatives who hadn't seen him in years. Even tried to drag Uncle Ray into it, who told them to go to hell, by the way. Their biggest piece of evidence was a photo of me helping Grandpa up the stairs at the courthouse. You know, doing what decent people do when someone is 84 with a bum knee. The judge dismissed the case in under 10 minutes. Grandpa's lawyer didn't even break a sweat. The court fined them for filing a frivolous suit and wasting time. I heard they had to take out a loan to cover it. Now they were truly sinking. The house? They ended up defaulting. It got auctioned off. I didn't buy it. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want the headache. Let someone else gut it and start over. Aaron? I heard he bounced around a few jobs. None of them sticking. He's living with some girl now who has no idea who he really is. Last I heard, he was telling people I stole from Grandpa and framed him at work. Funny how that story keeps changing. As for my parents, they moved into a small apartment in the bad part of town. Word is, they're scraping by on whatever retirement funds they didn't already burn through. They keep telling people I abandoned them. And they're not wrong. It should have ended with the court case. With the house gone, the will locked down, and me finally free of their mess. But people like my father don't go down with quiet dignity. He'd spent his whole life puffing his chest, mocking others, acting like the world owed him something just for existing. When it all crumbled, he needed a final performance. I got the call on a Tuesday. It was Aaron. First time I'd heard his voice in months. "Dad had another stroke," he said. "No hello, just straight into it. It's worse this time. They don't know if he's gonna make it." I didn't say anything. He kept going. He's asking for you, man. He keeps saying your name over and over. Just come see him. I waited for the rest. There's always more with him. He doesn't have anyone left, just mom and me. And she's not doing great either. Please. He just wants to see his son. I almost laughed. He didn't want to see his son. He wanted to see his last shot at a payout. But I didn't say that. I just said, let me think about it, and hung up. I told Sarah later that night while we were making dinner. Olivia was sitting at the table drawing some picture of Max with a superhero cape on. It should have been a peaceful moment. Sarah looked at me and said, "You're not really thinking about going, are you?" "I don't know," I said. "I guess I just want to hear him say it. Admit what he did." She shook her head slowly. "He won't. And you know that." I did know. But some small, stupid part of me thought maybe, just maybe, he'd surprise me for once. I drove to the hospital the next day. Sat in the parking lot for 40 minutes. Never went in. Instead, I walked across the street to a gas station, bought a bottle of water, and just stood outside watching people go about their lives. Nurses grabbing snacks, a teenager pumping gas, an old guy walking his dog. Normal people. People not tangled up in years of fake love and backhanded compliments and lies that smell like cheap cologne and kitchen table guilt trips. Then I went home. 2 days later, they showed up. Again. No warning. No call. Just like always. I opened the door and saw them. My mother, Erin, both standing there like they were auditioning for some pity documentary. Mom's face was drawn out, like she hadn't slept. Erin looked like someone trying way too hard to look broken. "You didn't come," she said, voice flat, cold. "No," I said. "I didn't." "He was crying for you," she said, putting a hand on her chest like that was supposed to mean something to me. I didn't flinch. "I cried too. Just didn't see you at my door back then." She swallowed hard. I could tell she had more loaded up. Some guilt trip, some Bible verse, maybe another round of, "He's still your father." But Erin cut in first. "Look, we know things got messed up, but we're still family." I actually smiled at that. "You know what day it is today?" I asked. They looked confused. My mom tilted her head slightly. Erin glanced at his phone like it was some trick question. "Today's my birthday," I said. "December 23rd. You lived with me for 18 years. Paid my rent with my own job. Covered your bills. And neither of you know when I was born." That shut them up real quick. I stepped out, closed the door behind me, and leaned on the railing.
You can choose to raid the caravan, or you can choose to guard it. This is a game where slaying monsters are not the only way to grow stronger. Heck, it's not even the main way. Discover relics in the ruins. Loot treasures from the bandit camps. Learn skills by finishing quests. Profit from trading routes. Build your own territory. Choose your own way to play, just because you can.
I funded a $28,000 family trip to Dubai for my dad's retirement. "We gave your seat to your sister's fiancé," Mom texted. So I canceled everything. Their dream trip turned into a nightmare. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, didn't think I'd be airing my family drama here, but this one's too good not to share. I paid for a dream trip to Dubai for my dad. My sister demanded her deadbeat fiancé come too, and that I cover it. I refused. So they stole my identity and gave him my seat. I made sure they got a vacation from hell. I'm 32 male, a project manager for a commercial signage company in Fort Worth. Started as an installer, climbing scaffolding and mounting signs in Texas summer heat when it was 105 degrees and the metal would literally burn your skin if you weren't wearing gloves. Worked my way up through skill and hustle. Now I oversee contracts for everything from local stadiums to corporate buildings. Last quarter alone, I managed $1.3 million in projects, all delivered on schedule and under budget. I make around $85,000 a year, plus bonuses when projects go well. My parents hit rough times during COVID 4 years ago. Dad worked construction sales for decades, killing it until the pandemic hit and the industry tanked. He was pulling in six figures selling commercial-grade materials to developers across 3 states. Then, everything froze overnight. Mom hasn't held a steady job, always with a new excuse. Back problems, changing job market. Now it's her candle-making business that somehow costs more than it makes. When their landlord sold their rental house, they faced potential homelessness. They asked if I could help just until they got back on their feet. I've always been practical with money. I still drive a 12-year-old Toyota 4Runner with 187,000 miles on it while still running smoothly. Even though I could afford something newer, it runs flawlessly, it's paid off, and it's built to last. But I had the foresight to buy a second property as an investment in 2018. Nothing fancy, just a decent 2-bedroom condo in a safe area that had good rental potential. I put down 20% to avoid PMI and locked in a solid 3.5% 30-year fixed rate before rates went crazy. I agreed to let my parents move in at $800 a month, about a third of market rate. The mortgage is $1,400 plus $320 in HOA fees, so I was actually losing money every month. I figured they'd be grateful for the help, get back on their feet, and either start paying market rate or find their own place within a year. Fast forward 4 years, and that rent money has shown up roughly 60% of the time. My parents have shorted me about $15,000 in rent over 4 years. Megan moving in 2 years ago only made things worse. "We'll catch up next month," became their motto. Right alongside, "Why are you being so difficult about this?" My sister, 26 female. Megan is her own special category of entitlement. She has a marketing degree, party girl who suddenly became career-focused when the real world started demanding actual work. She moved in with my parents about 2 years ago after her roommates got tired of covering her share of the rent. She tried the freelance social media consultant route for about 3 months before landing an entry-level job at a local marketing agency. Complained constantly about being undervalued, despite having zero portfolio to show. She makes about $42,000, but spends like she's making $120,000. Anytime I'd bring up the missing rent, Mom would hit me with, "We're family, not some corporation. Why are you nickel and diming us?" Meanwhile, they never missed a payment on their new SUV or Megan's monthly spa treatments. Dad once told me with a straight face that they couldn't afford rent that month because they had to pay for Megan's $400 hair extensions. Last year, I drove over unannounced on a Saturday and found them hosting a backyard BBQ with about 20 people. They'd installed a new 75-inch TV I hadn't seen before and had apparently just finished a kitchen remodel with granite countertops. When I asked about the rent money they owed me, Mom whispered, "Not now, we have guests." Like I was being the rude one. The breaking point came when Dad finally retired in March. Unlike most construction guys, he managed to avoid major injuries, though his knees are completely shot from years of job site visits. He needs replacement surgery, but keeps putting it off. For years, he'd talk about wanting to see Dubai. "Greatest construction achievement of our time," he'd say, like he personally advised on the Burj Khalifa blueprint. He had this coffee table book about Dubai skyscrapers that he'd flip through at least once a week, telling anyone who'd listen about the engineering marvels. I decided to make it happen as a retirement gift, figured it would finally earn some appreciation, and maybe reset our relationship.
We try to give a CISO or even a consumer the perfect overview which product protects against malicious stuff, which protects against threats. And for us, it's most important.
$28,000 for a 10-day trip to Dubai, first-class Emirates flights from DFW, 4-star hotel near the Burj Khalifa, desert safari excursions, the works. I spent weeks researching the best time to go. Even connected with my college buddy James, who's been working for an engineering firm there for 3 years. Guy's living like a king in an expat compound, driving a Mercedes he got tax-free. He promised to show us the real Dubai, not just the tourist traps. When I announced the trip at dinner, the initial shock and gratitude lasted about 5 minutes before Megan asked if Trevor could come. Freaking Trevor. Trevor is my sister's fiancé, and what happens when privilege meets delusion. Imagine every LinkedIn cliche packed into one 29-year-old with perfect teeth and a trust fund he pretends doesn't exist. He calls himself a serial entrepreneur and disruptive business strategist, but his actual business model consists of talking about business while others pay his bills. His LinkedIn profile reads like AI-generated corporate bullshit. Lots of leveraging synergies, but zero actual revenue. His profile picture is him in front of a rented Tesla, pointing at nothing while wearing a Patagonia vest. Classic. His venture capital connections consist of a second cousin who works as an administrative assistant at a firm that once invested in a failed meal kit startup. He constantly name drops tech companies like he has inside knowledge, but it's all stuff he read on TechCrunch that morning. Every conversation with him eventually turns into a pitch for his latest venture, which is always just vague enough that you can't actually tell what the business does. Last Thanksgiving, he cornered me for 40 minutes explaining his revolutionary app idea. The entire concept was basically Uber, but for dog walking, which already exists in about 12 different forms. He has an uncanny ability to order the most expensive item on any menu while simultaneously reaching for his phone when the check arrives. Classic move. Oh, I need to respond to this email real quick, followed by a 15-minute bathroom break that mysteriously coincides with bill-paying time. I initially said no to Trevor joining. I was maxing out my budget for 4 people. Megan immediately went full Karen. Why do you always have to ruin everything? It's not like you can't afford it with your fancy project manager job. She conveniently ignored the fact that her marketing specialist role paid her enough to afford a weekend trip to Austin, not a luxury Dubai vacation. My parents sided with her. Mom's classic guilt trip. But we're family, and Trevor is going to be family soon. Don't you want your father to have everyone there for his retirement celebration? Dad joined in. Son, it would mean a lot to have everyone there. Trevor's actually quite knowledgeable about international business. I looked Trevor dead in the eye and said, if you want to come, you can pay your own way. Should be pocket change for someone with your business acumen. The way his face twitched told me everything I needed to know about his bank account. He mumbled something about liquidating some assets and transferring funds from offshore accounts, which I'm pretty sure was code for asking my daddy for money. The subject seemed to drop after a few days. I thought they'd finally accepted my boundaries. I should have known better. These are people who believe boundaries are just suggestions, like speed limits or tax laws. I remember Trevor was bragging about how a college buddy of his now worked TSA at DFW. He said if I ever needed a favor, he'd take care of it. Trevor smirked. I thought he was full of it. Now, it all made sense. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. 2 weeks before the trip, Trevor cornered me in my parents' kitchen while I was grabbing coffee. So I've been thinking about maximizing our Dubai opportunity, he said, not looking up from his phone. Uh-huh, I replied, not giving a shit while I poured myself a cup of coffee I'd brought over. We need to book meetings with real estate developers while we're there. The UAE market is primed for disruption, and I've got concepts they'll want to hear. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. Seriously, all the big players are there. Emaar Properties, Nakheel, Damac. This could be the perfect chance to secure some seed funding for my next venture. Not in the budget, Trevor. I'm already covering the entire $28,000 for the family trip. I'd actually checked out these companies while planning the trip. The idea that they'd take a meeting with a random American with no portfolio, credentials, or actual business plan was laughable. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime networking opportunity, he pressed, finally looking up from his phone. I've been developing a concept for a revolutionary co-living space that combines WeWork with high-end residential. So, an apartment building with desks? I asked. His eyes narrowed. It's more nuanced than that. It's about creating synergistic living environments that foster cross-pollination of ideas while maximizing square footage utility. Right. Still not in the budget. That evening, Megan confronted me about it, calling me a jerk for not helping with Trevor's important business opportunity. According to her, I was sabotaging his career because I was jealous of his vision. I stood my ground. The trip was for Dad's retirement, not Trevor's imaginary business deals. Fast forward to departure day. I was finishing paperwork on a project when my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We've decided that Trevor is coming on the trip instead of you. He's more fun and will take better photos for social media. Your father agrees he'll be better company than you would be. I stared at my phone. My stomach dropped. Was this some kind of sick joke? I replied.
Must-have tech gifts from Best Buy start at the front door. The Ring battery doorbell makes a great gift.
Asking what she meant. She said, I shit you not, Trevor was taking my seat, and I could always go on another trip sometime. They needed Trevor there for his business connections anyway. I replied with one word, understood. Then I closed my office door and did what they least expected. I called Emirates directly to investigate what was happening. The agent confirmed I was checked in for departure in 3 hours, while I was sitting in my office 20 miles away. After speaking with supervisors, I discovered that Megan had called Emirates a week earlier, claiming I had a medical emergency. She tried to get the ticket changed to Trevor's name, but Emirates doesn't allow easy name transfers. Instead, they plan to have Trevor use my boarding pass and somehow clear security. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was fraud. I called Emirates back and spoke to their fraud department. Since everything was booked under my name and credit card, I had leverage. While they couldn't stop passengers already checked in for today's flight, they could flag the return portion for security review. I then requested a full cancellation and refund of the return tickets, citing fraud. Next, I logged into Booking.com and canceled the hotel reservations. Then, I methodically called each tour company and canceled every excursion. I called James in Dubai to explain the situation. They were about to board a flight to a country they'd never visited, thinking everything was paid for. But I'd canceled it all. They'd kicked me off my own trip to bring Trevor instead. That's cold, man. He paused. Also completely deserved. What are they going to do when they land? Figure it out, I guess. Dubai isn't exactly budget-friendly for unprepared tourists. A decent meal at a mid-range restaurant would run $50 to $75 per person. A taxi from the airport to the city center would be around $50. Their emergency fund would evaporate within 48 hours. Then I called my bank and reported my credit card as compromised. Had a new one issued with a different number. Froze my other accounts temporarily, just in case anyone had my account details. I wasn't taking any chances. These people had proven they felt entitled to my money. My best friend Matt always saw through their BS and warned me, but I didn't think much about it. So I texted him. Remember that conversation about consequences? It's happening now. He came over that night with drinks and his buddy Ryan, who works as a locksmith. By 10 p.m., every lock in my rental property had been changed, new security cameras installed, and a keypad lockbox mounted by the front door. I contacted a property management company I'd networked with through work, had them draw up a formal lease agreement at full market rate, $2,850 per month, utilities not included, first and last month's rent due, immediately upon signing. Finally, I called my real estate attorney. I'd used him before for property matters, and he quickly drew up an official eviction notice giving them 30 days to either sign the new lease or vacate the premises. That wasn't all. While my real estate attorney was drawing up the eviction paperwork, I explained how Trevor had used my personal information to board the flight. He'd essentially committed identity theft. My attorney, who also handled criminal cases, immediately saw the opportunity. "We need to document this fully," he said. "This isn't just a family dispute anymore. It's potentially criminal fraud." I filed a police report the next morning, bringing copies of my text messages, screenshots of the original booking confirmation, and the flight records showing someone had used my ticket. The officer taking the report looked impressed by my documentation. "Most identity theft cases don't have this level of evidence," he said. "Usually it's just a mysterious charge on someone's credit card, not a fully documented case with admissions in text messages." I also called Emirates back and asked to speak to their fraud department. The rep was professionally horrified when I explained what happened. "Sir, this is a serious security breach," she said. "Someone using another person's boarding pass and identification is something we track very closely." She flagged the incident for internal review and assured me they'd be investigating. "And remember Trevor's TSA buddy? Seems like the guy helped him bypass the ID check." Emirates didn't catch the mismatch until the return leg, which triggered a security review. My attorney sent a formal cease and desist letter regarding the identity theft and helped me file charges for identity fraud and misuse of personal information. Their Emirates flight landed in Dubai around 7 p.m. local time. I imagine the excitement as they deplaned, all smiles and Instagram stories, ready for their luxury vacation. Except there was no hotel shuttle waiting, no reservation, no return flights. Matt came over to my place that night with pizza and drinks. We also spent some time setting up a detailed spreadsheet, tracking every penny they'd borrowed or taken from me over the years, with dates, amounts, and any promises made about repayment. The first panicked call hit my phone around 9 p.m. my time. I didn't answer. Then another, and another. My phone started blowing up with text messages, which Matt and I read out loud between bites of pizza. "Megan, what the heck did you do?" "Trevor, this is completely unprofessional and potentially illegal. My attorney will be contacting you." "Mom, please call us back. We don't know what to do." I replied with a single text. Enjoy Dubai with Trevor. I hear he's more fun than I am. Then I turned off my phone and enjoyed the first peaceful night I'd had in months. Matt couldn't stop laughing. Dude, Trevor's attorney? What attorney represents people who can't afford their own plane tickets? The same one who handles all his billion-dollar deals, I replied, reaching for another slice of pizza. 2 days later, I turned my phone back on. The messages were becoming interesting. Dad, we had to call Trevor's father to wire emergency money.
From creating memories to finding the perfect gift, Steel can help make the holidays even easier. Check off more of your wish list when you get an extra.
You've embarrassed me in front of my new family member, Megan. Trevor fell off a camel during the desert tour we had to book last minute. He broke his arm and can't take photos of anything now. Mom's so upset. This is all you fault. Screw you. Amazing how my fault extends to a pissed-off camel. From their messages, I pieced together a pretty clear picture of their Habibi adventure. They were stranded at the airport with no hotel reservation, no transportation, and rapidly dwindling funds. They had to call Trevor's parents to wire emergency cash. That must have been a fun conversation. Hey, Dad, we need $5,000 wired immediately, or we'll be sleeping in the airport. They spent 3 nights in a budget hotel by the airport that apparently had cockroaches the size of mice. Based on my research, they probably paid about $400 per night for this privilege. Dubai's version of a budget hotel is still priced for oil barons compared to American standards. The coup de grace was Trevor having to sell his vintage Rolex, definitely a knockoff, to cover some expenses. From what I could gather through their texts, he got about $500 for a watch he claimed was worth $12,000. Tragic. So, they landed back in Texas 5 days after they left, spent most of the trip panicking, broke, and apparently being chased by stray dogs near their budget hotel. According to Megan's angry texts, they spent most of their time arguing in the hotel room, with Trevor blaming her for the vacation from hell, and my parents questioning their future son-in-law's business acumen. My favorite, though? They apparently tried to visit the Burj Khalifa but couldn't afford the observation deck tickets. So the centerpiece of Dad's dream trip was something they only saw from the ground. Sucks to suck. When they pulled up to my place in an Uber, I was standing in the driveway with Matt. We were casually drinking coffees, looking like we'd been having the time of our lives while they were suffering in Dubai. I'd positioned both our cars in the driveway, my 4Runner and his Tacoma, so they couldn't pull in. What the actual heck was that? My dad shouted as he got out of the car, his face lobster red from either the desert sun or rage. I took a slow sip of my coffee. That was what consequences look like. You stranded us in a foreign country, my mother screamed. We could have died. Yet here you are, I observed. Alive and well. Minus one functional arm, I see. I nodded toward Trevor, whose arm was in a makeshift sling. Trevor stepped forward, wincing. You realize what you've done is actionable, right? I have contacts at 3 major law firms who would take this case pro bono. Matt snorted. Damn, that must be convenient. Do these law firms also provide medical care for camel-related injuries? Because that sling looks like it was made by a toddler with a dish towel. You have no idea what we've been through, Dad growled. Trevor broke his arm when the camel threw him. The hotel they put us in had no working air conditioning. Megan got food poisoning from a street vendor. We had to sleep in the airport one night because our credit cards wouldn't work, my mother added. And the embassy was absolutely no help at all. This last part didn't surprise me at all. What did they expect the embassy to do? Hello, American Embassy? My son paid for a luxury vacation and then canceled it when we uninvited him. Please send the Marines. Don't forget the camel incident, I said, unable to hide my smirk. I heard that was particularly traumatic. Trevor's face turned an even deeper shade of red. That camel was clearly not trained properly. I specifically told the guide I was an experienced rider. Oh, I'm sure you did, Matt muttered, just loud enough for everyone to hear. Right after you told him about your Fortune 500 connections and cryptocurrency portfolio? Megan was almost in tears now. We had to call Trevor's dad for money. Do you know how humiliating that was? Almost as humiliating as uninviting someone from a trip they paid for, I suggested. You never answered our calls, Mom nearly screamed. We didn't know what to do. Well, you figured it out, didn't you? And from what I hear, Dubai has one of the lowest crime rates in the world. Plus, you had Trevor, the international business expert. I figured you were in capable hands. That's when I reached into my back pocket and pulled out the lease agreement and eviction notice. Since we're having a heart-to-heart, let me set some things clear. Here are the new terms for the condo. $2,850 per month, utilities not included. First and last month's rent due immediately. You have 30 days to either sign this new lease or vacate the premises. They stared at the papers like I'd handed them a death sentence. This is illegal, Trevor started. You can't just... It's completely legal, I cut him off. You were never on any lease. My parents have been month-to-month tenants paying well below market rate, and I've decided to change the terms. It's all laid out in black and white. What? Why? We don't have that kind of money right now, Mom protested. Not my problem, I replied. I'm sure Trevor's parents can help you out again, like they did in Dubai. My father stepped forward, his voice suddenly soft. Son, this is extreme. We're talking about your family here. No, this isn't about family. It's about business. And business is what I'm doing now. As they turned to leave, I added one final point. Oh, and the locks have been changed. Your new keys will be provided after you sign the lease and pay the first and last month's rent. You can get access to retrieve your belongings by contacting the property management company listed on page 3. They didn't sign the new lease. They also didn't leave.
1 second, you're worrying about your home. And then, thanks to ADT.
The 30 days came and went, with them ignoring my property manager's calls and emails. They thought they could wait me out, that I'd eventually soften and let them go back to the way things were. They were wrong. I filed for eviction exactly 1 day after the deadline passed. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. During that time, they alternated between ignoring me completely and sending manipulative messages. Mom, I raised you better than this. Dad, no son of mine would treat family this way. Megan, I hope you're happy destroying our lives for your petty revenge. Each message just reinforced that I'd made the right decision. Not once did they acknowledge their role in creating this situation. Not once did they offer to make amends or take responsibility. It was always about what I was doing to them, never about what they had done to me. While the eviction process was playing out, I wasn't just sitting idle. The identity theft angle was moving forward too. The police report I'd filed got assigned to a detective who specialized in fraud cases. He called me for a follow-up interview and seemed genuinely interested when I handed over the texts, screenshots, and flight records showing how Trevor had used my identity to board the flight. This is pretty clear-cut, the detective said. Most identity theft is harder to prove, but they basically admitted to it in writing. Yeah, they weren't exactly geniuses. The Emirates Fraud Department also completed their review. An airline representative called to inform me they'd flagged Trevor's passport in their system and confirmed my original suspicion. He'd used my boarding pass and identifying information to get through security and board the flight. My attorney was methodical about the whole process. He filed the identity theft and fraud charges separately from the eviction proceedings, explaining that mixing them would only complicate both cases. Let the criminal justice system handle the identity fraud while we focus on getting your property back, he advised. The courts don't like when people try to combine civil and criminal matters. I used those 2 weeks productively, met with my financial advisor to adjust my investment strategy now that I wasn't subsidizing 3 adults. Started talking to a real estate agent about potential properties in up-and-coming neighborhoods. Even reactivated my dating profile after a 2-year hiatus. The judge at the eviction hearing was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who had clearly seen every sob story in the book. My attorney presented the case. Tenants refusing to sign a new lease or vacate, history of irregular payments, property owners' right to adjust terms. Their defense consisted mainly of, but we're family, and we've lived there for years, neither of which impressed the judge. Dad tried bringing up his knee problems and retirement, but the judge cut him off with a raised hand. Sir, medical conditions, while unfortunate, do not create tenancy rights, she said, peering over her glasses. Trevor tried to argue that as Megan's fiancé, he had some kind of right to be involved. The judge shut that down so fast I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Young man, unless your name is on a lease or you have established residency for the legally required period, you have no standing in these proceedings, she told him, not even trying to hide her annoyance. The ruling came down in my favor. They had 5 days to vacate the premises. 5 days. As we left the courthouse, my mother grabbed my arm. You can't do this to us. Where are we supposed to go in 5 days? Maybe ask Trevor. He's practically family now, right? Trevor stepped forward. My parents aren't going to house your family. That's your responsibility. I laughed. Funny how your entrepreneurial spirit doesn't extend to solving actual problems. What happened to all those UAE investors you were going to impress? That meeting would have happened if you hadn't sabotaged the trip, he shot back. Right, I nodded. I'm sure the sheikhs were lined up to throw money at... What exactly is your business again? I've known you for over 2 years and still have no idea what you actually do. What Trevor didn't know was that his identity theft problems were just beginning. 2 days after the eviction hearing, He and Megan were served with papers for the fraud case. The look on his face when he realized this wasn't going away was priceless, like watching someone who'd never faced consequences suddenly understand that actions have repercussions. They spent those 5 days alternating between begging, threatening, and guilt-tripping. None of it worked. On day 5, they finally moved out. My parents to my aunt's house, Trevor and Megan apparently to his parents' place, despite his earlier protests. When they left, they took everything that wasn't bolted down, including appliances that were part of the property: dishwasher, microwave, washer, and dryer. They also deliberately damaged several walls, breaking a bathroom mirror, and left all their trash. My property manager documented everything, and I filed a complaint for property damage. My attorney suggested I could take it to small claims court for the stolen appliances, but I decided to just track it and keep receipts. They weren't worth another legal battle. The replacement and repair costs came to about $4,200, which I added to the spreadsheet tracking their debt to me. Not that I expected to ever see a penny of it, but it felt important to keep the record straight. Megan texted me too. "Hey, I know we had our issues, but maybe we can grab coffee and talk this out? I'm willing to forgive everything if you help us with the first month's rent somewhere else." I didn't respond. A day later, she texted again. "Fine. Hope you enjoy being alone forever. Screw you." 2 days later, I got a text from my father. "Your mother and I have decided that until you apologize and make this right, you are no longer our son. We didn't raise you to be this heartless." I replied, "Understood. Best of luck with everything." My mother started calling everyone in the extended family, telling them how I had abandoned them when they needed me most, conveniently leaving out the years of financial support and the Dubai fiasco. My father started sending increasingly threatening texts. The last one included some pretty explicit threats about how I'd regret this decision for the rest of my life. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I forwarded the message to my attorney, who sent a cease and desist letter. When that didn't stop the messages, I filed for a restraining order. The restraining order was granted after I presented the judge with over 30 threatening messages. The court bailiff who served them the papers reported back that my father had gone on a tirade about ungrateful children and family loyalty. Meanwhile, the identity theft case was working its way through the system. They didn't end up in jail, but both Megan and Trevor were hit with misdemeanor charges and fines. It wasn't enough to land them behind bars, but it was enough to give them both criminal records. The DA wasn't interested in pursuing felony charges since it was a family matter, but he wasn't about to let them walk either. They offered a plea deal, misdemeanor charges in exchange for full cooperation and restitution. The DA said it wasn't worth wasting resources on a full-blown felony trial given the family context. The airline's security report sealed the deal. Emirates takes passenger identification very seriously, and their documentation of Trevor using my boarding pass was damning. The TSA agent who processed Trevor's boarding was also investigated. Turns out he was a friend of Trevor's from college who helped him bypass normal security protocols. He lost his job, and Emirates implemented stricter ID verification procedures as a result of the incident. Trevor got off with a misdemeanor because he claimed he was just using the boarding pass I gave him, and the TSA agent, his friend, corroborated this lie. The agent took most of the heat for bypassing proper verification procedures. Trevor ended up with a $5,000 fine and 200 hours of community service. Megan got a slightly lighter sentence, $2,500 and 100 hours, since Trevor was the one who actually boarded the plane. The DA said the texts alone weren't strong enough to show Megan knew Trevor was going to impersonate me. She denied involvement, and Trevor took the fall. Both her and Trevor were placed on probation for a year. The criminal records had immediate consequences. Megan lost a job offer at a marketing firm when it came up during her background check. She tried to explain it away as a misunderstanding, but fraud convictions aren't exactly minor issues for companies that handle financial information. Trevor's fake consulting business took an even bigger hit. Word got around about his criminal record, and suddenly those Fortune 500 connections he was always bragging about went silent. Turns out legitimate businesses aren't eager to work with someone convicted of fraud. Who knew? It's been a year since the Dubai disaster. I haven't heard from my immediate family since the restraining order was served. The silence has been surprisingly peaceful. I kept the condo, found reliable tenants who actually pay the full amount on time, and have been using the extra income to fund my hobbies and investments instead of subsidizing adult dependents. I used some of the newfound financial freedom to take an actual vacation of my own. 2 weeks in Costa Rica, surfing and hiking. Didn't post a single photo on social media. Just enjoyed it for what it was. My cousin Laura dropped by a few times throughout the year, keeping me updated on the family drama. My parents had moved from my aunt's house to another relative's, then another, burning bridges at each stop. They'd taken loans from various family members, promising to pay back as soon as their situation stabilized. None of those loans had been repaid. Most of the extended family had cut ties with them after realizing they were being used as temporary ATMs, a role I knew all too well. Trevor bailed on Megan about 2 months after the eviction, moving on to dating the daughter of a local restaurant owner. Megan wasn't doing well. She'd wasted a bunch of money on some online business scheme that turned out to be a scam, no doubt inspired by Trevor's entrepreneurial bullshit. She'd started drinking heavily and was living with roommates who were about to kick her out for not paying her share of utilities. My father's knee problems had worsened to the point where he needed surgery, but Medicare would only cover part of it. My mother was working part-time at a craft store, but still dumping money into her failed candle business. She'd even set up a GoFundMe for my dad's surgery that had raised a whopping $340 in 3 months. I checked it out one night after a few sodas and donated exactly $1, just so they'd see my name on the donor list. According to Laura, my name had become synonymous with betrayal in family conversations. They'd rewritten history completely. Now I was the villain who had abandoned them without warning, after years of them helping me build my career. Me? I'd moved on with my life, got promoted at work to senior project manager, overseeing all commercial projects over $750,000. Started dating a civil engineer named Kristen, who doesn't believe that family is a blank check to be cashed at will. Expanded my investment portfolio, and even started mentoring a couple of younger guys at work on financial literacy. Then they finally tried to reach out again. Mom sent me a message from a new number asking if we could meet. Of course I agreed. I wanted to witness it with my eyes, see how badly they screwed up. They came over, knocking on my door. My parents and Megan were standing on the porch, looking like they'd aged a decade in a year. "Thank you for seeing us," my father began. I nodded, but said nothing. "We've been doing a lot of thinking," my mother continued, "about everything that happened, about Dubai, about how we treated you." Megan was crying silently. Trevor bailed the second things got hard. "You were right about him all along." "What do you want?" I asked, cutting to the chase. I'd developed a pretty reliable bullshit detector over the past year. They exchanged glances. "We want to reconcile," my mother said, "to be a family again. We need a place to stay," my father admitted, "just until we get back on our feet." Same phrase, different day. Part of me wondered if they even realized they were using the exact same line they'd used 4 years ago when this whole mess started. "You disowned me. We're not family anymore, remember?" My mother reached for my hand. I moved it away. "Please," she whispered. "We were hurt and angry. We didn't mean it." "No," I replied. "You meant it at the time. You meant it when you thought other people would keep supporting you. You meant it until you ran out of relatives to leech off of." My father looked genuinely confused, like he couldn't comprehend why his apology script wasn't working. In his mind, saying sorry was always enough to reset everything. It never occurred to him that some damage can't be undone with words. "But I'm not your backup plan," I continued. "And I'm certainly not going to let you move back into my property after the damage you caused." Megan's face hardened. "This is still about your stupid trip, isn't it? We've both paid for that. I lost my career because of the charges you filed." I looked at her directly. "You lost your career because you committed identity theft. Now you know what it's like when doors close because of things on your record." After minutes of back and forths, they lost hope. As they were leaving, I stopped them. I handed my father an envelope. Inside was $3,000. "This is for your surgery," I said flatly. They stared at the envelope, then at me, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. "This isn't reconciliation," I continued. "This is closing our accounts. I won't have your health problems on my conscience. Nothing more." My father's hand trembled as he took the envelope. "Thank you, son," he muttered. "Don't call me that," I said, opening the door for them. I watched them walk to their car, heads down. On the drive home, they'd probably convince themselves this was the first step toward getting back into my life. They'd be wrong. Still waiting on that call from Trevor's lawyer, by the way. It's been 379 business days.
This holiday, Verizon's got the craziest